The Fed is proposing to tighten regulation on commodities holdings. This would require banks to boost capital to support activities involving the trading or holding of physical commodities. Joining us now is Bloomberg's Jesse Westbrook, who oversees financial regulation coverage for us. Jesse, talk to me about what we've learned, just the basics here. I mean, why is the Fed doing this to start with?
Yeah, so the Fed is really trying to make it prohibitively expensive for banks to own power plants, metals. This is different than the trading they engage in with derivatives, but the capital standards that they've issued here are so high, so punitive, that, I mean, it would really not make sense for banks to continue engaging in these businesses.
And have we seen banks get out of these businesses in anticipation of these onerous changes?
Yeah, so these rules have been long time coming. They've been in the pipeline forever. And it's also just been politically unpopular for banks to be engaged in these businesses. So for the most part, Wall Street has been getting out of its physical commodity businesses. One exception to that is Goldman Sachs, which has sort of stayed the course and said that this is very important to their market-making functions and that customers like them doing this. So they have been a bit of a foot dragger, so to speak. If these rules are finalized and come to fruition, it would force Goldman out as well.
And of course, Goldman Sachs, with its heritage in acquiring the company that was a commodities trader, Matt, that Lloyd Blankfein is now chief executive of. I mean, he came over from the commodities brokerage side.
Exactly, and that could say a lot about why he thinks it's important. Jesse?
Yeah, you could say that commodity business is near and dear to Lloyd Blankfein's heart. Now, whether that has guided their business decisions, I don't know, but he definitely has a special place for commodities in his background.
So where does this push that kind of trading? I mean, okay, Goldman Sachs is going to hold on to it. Other banks have been getting out of this business. Somebody's got to make a market in this stuff. Does it all go to Chicago?
Well, I mean, banks would certainly still be permitted to make markets in derivatives on energy trading. I mean, if you're going to trade a swap that is tied to metals or oil or you name it, you're still going to call Goldman Sachs to do that. What Goldman can't do is own an oil tanker or own a power plant. You know, there's concerns about a power plant blowing up and the liability for a bank, it blowing a hole in its capital, in its balance sheet. The Fed is obviously concerned about that. But there's also a concern that banks that are making markets and trading derivatives, they're getting a huge advantage by seeing the flows of physical commodities. So that's another thing the Fed is trying to address.